So how many people have seen this? Who has not seen this figure before? Sorry. Okay. All right. This is a figure that was from a paper on the cover of Science in about 2008 about punishment. So I wasn't buying the Boyd and Richardson story that punishment was necessary to sustain cooperation. So instead, I was very excited because I already knew that you know, the Hamilton line on that. So I was very excited when somebody waded in with another set of literature. So first of all, you need to know that there are people who invest heavily in punishing the people that are benefiting them. That's what antisocial punishment is called. So it's when you punish the people that are contributing to the public good, all right? And then what's also interesting is that in this paper you see that this is not just a completely arbitrary set. If you can read the small print, you'll see that the countries where you get more of this behavior of the antisocial punishment are the countries that tend to have, well, the former Soviet Union, the former Ottoman Empire, well, that's about it right now. But it's actually correlated to low GDP and low rule of law, both those things. All right, so what's going on? First of all, you must say, where did you get this data? And so fortunately, someone's talked about this a little before. I'll say it very quickly. Laboratory experiments at the top universities in those cities. All right, so even though there was global regional patterns, the data comes from cities. 4 players contribute to a common pool. It's not actually by 3, that's too expensive, but it's easier to talk about if we multiply it by 3, and then we distribute it back between all 4. So most people will contribute even though they only receive 3/4 of their own contribution back. Obviously the global optimum is if everybody puts all their money in, they get 3 times as much money. But for every dollar you put in, you only get 75 cents back, and that is the definition of an altruistic act. Now I know biologists say, oh no, it's lifetime payoff, but whatever. Economists don't care about that. All right, so the whole economicist prediction was no altruism, and unfortunately, well, this is really quite funny. If you let them play, basically people throw in half. You give them 10 poker chips to play with. They're all playing for about half a day's wages. You give them 10 poker chips, and they put in half, and they keep half. All right, but if you let them play again and again with same or even differing people, if every round is going to change, you get this line. And so the economists said, "Oh, see, it's going to 0." Okay, we don't know what happened. That isn't. Well, we're making jokes about economists, but yeah, it's going to go to 0. So clearly, it's not stable. Where if you allow them to punish, now punish is when you pay 1 to the experiment, and the experimenter takes 3 away. This is all anonymous. You don't know who these people are, but you just say, that person who only paid 3 last time, I want to nail them. So I'm going to pay you to take their 3 away. And, okay, hurrah, you get into nature with this. All right? And this is called stable. Now, actually, I don't have time to talk about this, but it turns out that it never crosses 0. This is more like a Coolidge effect. All right? So if you change groups, you go back to your higher level of investment. But anyway, we don't have time for that. Let's talk about the fact that those experiments run at ETH, and that's in Zurich, and in general in Northern Europe, you get every place you get these high levels of investment in altruistic punishment, but you have relatively low levels of antisocial punishment. They noticed it, but they thought it was revenge or something. I'll show very quickly that, and I don't have time for this either, that there actually seems to be very different patterns, and I would say there's at least 3 patterns. That Northern Europe seems to, if the subjects read and say, oh, there is punishment, they sort of leap into this more cooperative situation. I got to go through this. Forget this. Okay. This is something that we found going back through their data. There's actually 3 different strategies here. There's a whole bunch of people doing just mixed. They're not, antisocial punishment is just a consequence of, I've only got 1 minute, so I'm going to skip this anyway. I think that graph matches up to this one. So the pro-social behavior was discovered by a psychologist. As people said, that it goes up over time. But people that prefer the group to do well, there's a bunch of people that only care about themselves. And so this is free riding on punishment. Okay, the people who didn't punish at all. And then the antisocial punishments, I think, are the competitive types. And so this is, I do have 2 more slides. I'll try to zoom through. There's some beautiful theory I think we should look at where actually societies need to be composed of 2 different groups, the altruists and the cheats, because mixing those together can get you to the point where you're optimally extracting resources. Now, this is in microbia, where if you're doing the wrong strategy, you just die, and that's okay, right? Obviously, with humans, we have a lot more investment in other species, And so it's possible that we're also adding another piece, which is actually up-regulating, down-regulating the group size. So when we invest socially, so the new hypothesis that we're presenting, and I haven't really shown you the models or anything, is that wealth affords taking risks, building larger and more diverse coalitions. And so that explains this correlation with GDP and rule of law. But of course, obviously, for a long time, people have known when you're competing at the group level, then you also suddenly, you get the size group that you need. And so then that might be another time when you shift these proportions of strategies within your society. So, sorry about the talking fast.